Welcome to Mind Over Masculinity, the show where we explore what it means to lead, to rise, and to redefine strength in a world that's constantly testing it. I am Sayan, and tonight's guest is someone who has walked through fire and come out sharper, stronger, and more purpose driven than ever. Tracy Brinkmann is a father of four, a military veteran, and the host of two head podcasts, The Dark Horse Entrepreneur, AI Escape Plan, and Your Success DNA, which together reach over 300,000 listeners every month. His life is a story of profound transformation, addiction, loss, divorce, bankruptcy, and ultimately redemption. Today, he helps small business owners unlock hidden income using AI and automation and what he calls the email Goldmine framework, a system that can generate a full month's revenue in under a week by reigniting relationships with dormant clients. But beyond business strategy, Trace's message strikes right at the heart of masculinity. Your past doesn't define you, it refines you. So, welcome to the show, Tracy. It's an absolute honor to have you here on the show.
Oh, it's actually my blessing to be here. Thank you so much for having me aboard.
Wonderful. Tracy, and I want to start with something that sits right at the center of your story. Being in your lowest lows, rock bottom, because it's one thing to talk about reinvention after the fact when life looks good again. But it's another to face the moment when everything falls apart and still decide to rebuild. So your journey has had every chapter a man could face, right? Starting from addiction, loss, failure, and yet somehow you have turned it into fuel. So what was the defining moment when you decided this isn't where my story ends?
I guess I was lucky enough through each phase, because each one of those, those events happened at different times. And in each one of those moments when things happened, I had something to live for. So when addiction got to the point where the police literally kicked open the door to my condominium because I was actually having people sell the product I was addicted to in order to support my habit. When they did that, I had my dad in my ear, not physically, but in my mind, going family first, family first, family first, and he was always this family first guy, and I had a 3-month-old baby. So I had a different reason to live. It wasn't that was my selfish time. I call it my party phase, right? And I went
Mm,
to the extreme, but now it wasn't my life I was negatively impacting, it was somebody else's. So that
right.
was at that juncture in life, that was that reason. And then each subsequent event had gave me another reason to look forward because when my, second daughter passed away and, I could have, just drew in and pulled, the covers over my head and said, "You know what? I'm done. I'm not doing this caca anymore." But I looked in her eyes as I rocked her to sleep that one last time, and I told her the things, A, that I was thankful that she was there to, teach me. She was only with us for 18 months, but I learned so many amazing things from her, and I promised her to be the dad that she would be proud of, and I know she would be watching. So now I had to keep that promise to go forward. And again, it's, where in each chapter of the story, the reason was different, but it was kind of the same as I looked at something else outside of me that was bigger than me that kept me moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's inspiring. Right, I get it. But, a little moments from every chapter in your life that made you realize that and that is like you redefined what success looked like for you, because so many men stay stuck in that loop of chasing validation, being keep getting negatively impacted, I would say, running
Mhm.
someone else's races and wondering why it still feels that way, why it still feels empty. And you call them the dark horses, the ones who don't always fit the mold but have the drive to create their own lane. So
Right.
I want to crack that open a bit. What does being a dark horse really mean to you? And I'm not aware of it, and I would love to know on behalf of me and my listeners. So if you could share.
Sure. For me, it's akin to the underdog. It's that person that no one thinks is ever gonna win. We've all seen them in the
Mm.
movies, they're the
Right.
protagonist, and they end up being the hero, the Spider-Man, and the whole 9 yards. But in the real world, we don't get to wear, capes and fly through the air. But there's this drive inside them that says, "You know what? To hell with you, to hell with what the world says about me or where I came from and the things that I've done in my past. They don't make me, they read it, they can refine me. I'm going to succeed anyway, whether you like it or not." Those are the dark horses that are out there. If you picture a horse race or a number of horses just running in the wild, that dark horse is going to be the one that in the beginning, it's probably in the back of the pack. And as the horses start, running off into the horizon, all of a sudden, for some reason, that one
Mm.
horse just starts barreling through the pack, and it doesn't matter whether he comes in first when they get to their final destination. It's the fact that he finished the race and he left it all on the mat, as they used to say in sports and in cheerleading. I left everything
Mm.
on the mat. When you're done with the race, you have nothing left in you, and you can sit there in your chair, huffing and puffing as you try to catch your breath, but you're proud of how you performed. It's not whether you win
Right.
or lose. It's how you run the race, right?
Right. I love that. What you're saying flips the, narrative completely. Success isn't about being the loudest horse in the race. It's about, being the one who finally runs his own. And that idea shows up, I would say, not just in identity, but in business and purpose too. You're helping people do something most of us forget to do, right? And stop searching for something new and start reactivating what we already have. So
Mhm.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about the, email Goldmine framework that you have mentioned. On the surface, it looks like a business system, but the metaphor I think goes way deeper than that. So can you break it down for me and everyone else listening to it right now?
It's like if we step away from the business, analogy for a moment, or even the
Yeah.
reality it being used in business, it's like opening up your phone book, right? Whether it's on actually on your phone where you save all your contacts, or if you're as old as I am, you actually had a little book where you would write people's phone numbers in. It's like opening up that
Right.
old phone book, dialing that phone number, and an old friend picking up, and you guys, it's like you never got disconnected. You just start, chitting and chatting and catching up with each other's lives and like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Right? It's that feeling that comes with that. The same
Mm.
thing happens in business because when you get someone's attention and you get earn someone's trust, especially to the point where they spend money with you in whatever service you provide,
Right.
you have this relationship. And now I see so many businesses, and especially local businesses, that are on the ads hamster reel. They're out there just throwing more money ads and more money at ads to get the next client when they already have a number of clients they've kind of quote unquote forgotten about. So we use, that we take that methodology and that mentality and say, look, you have their trust over here. Let's reach
Mm.
back out to them and see if they need more of what it is you provide. And if they don't, what else do they need? Perhaps you could either A, provide that, or B, connect them with the person that can provide it for them. And maybe you get a commission, or if nothing else, you just earn some more trust. And it just begins a cycle because when you do that, people generally, probably about 70 to 80% of the time, come back and rebuy more services and
Mm.
also start becoming advocates of what it is you provide and start telling other people about your products and services, which get you more clients and it does it for free.
Hmm. I love that. It's like a kind of a narrative where you're looking out for gold everywhere, but it's been with you, like, since
Yeah, it's like the
forever.
old story of mining for diamonds. The farmer that sold his farm to go mine for diamonds,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
died never, he died penny wise and broke. Meanwhile, the person that bought his farm found
Mm.
acres of diamonds on his farm. It's based on a true story, as I understand it.
Yeah, if you look around, I think, if we could see a lot of, like I could draw like more analogies from there. But Tracy, you talked about, I understand the business perspective, but how does that really work in a scenario where we're just, let's say, not dealing with services, we're dealing with people?
It works the same way. Really, it's like I was saying earlier, it's like opening up your phone book and reaching out to someone and saying, "Hey, Lisa, I haven't talked to you in forever." And you
Hmm.
but you don't do it from the perspective of wanting to get something from them. That's the mistake that
Yeah,
a lot of people will make. It's like,
got it.
"Oh, I need this." And oh my gosh, if I look at my phone book, here's someone I know that could help get me there, right? And if you make that connection, that phone call or send that email or send that, tweet or Facebook Messenger message with the goal of having them help you first, that's your first goal, then that energy goes with it. And I think it even transmutes across the internet to the
Hmm.
recipient. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? But if you
Hmm.
occasionally reach out to those in your sphere of influence just to say, "Hi, how you doing?
Hmm.
That post you made, man, it resonated with me, and for some reason, it just made me think of something else today. I wanted to reach out and share with you." That's it.
Yeah.
You're not telling them that you're wanting them to say something back. You're just, "Hey, I was thinking of you today, sending out a little energy your way." However you word it. Some folks might be a bit too woo-woo for them. For some
Hmm.
guys, and my brother from another mother was like this, he would just, like, sometimes send me a text. He goes, "Yo, what's up, dude? How you doing?" That's it. He was just checking in on me to make sure I was doing okay because I hadn't talked to him in maybe a couple of weeks. So I
Hmm.
would, hop on the phone or I would text back. And usually long conversations would come out of that. And that's how it works. You reach out, you send, that energy out into the universe. And, God, Allah, Buddha, Mother Nature, whoever you believe in, magnifies it and sends it back to you.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. You know, sometimes the things we are trying to rebuild isn't missing. We just haven't looked at with fresh eyes. That puts into perspective. But I wanted to know your view on the role of AI in building connections, because we are talking about building real human connections,
Mhm.
and some would argue that AI is somewhat the polar opposite to that, right? To
Yes.
what we are discussing. And so let's talk about that. How do you see AI becoming a tool for like a deeper human connection instead of something that pushes us farther apart?
I think it's walking a fine line, right? Because
Mm.
obviously, if you just went into ChatGPT or whatever tool there is out there and said
Mm.
reply to all the comments that have this keyword, well, then you're not
Right.
really building connections. If and I do this, I'm full transparency here. If you sit there and you say, "Okay, here's who I am," and you kind of list things out, and you can even sit down and have a chat GPT session and say, "Ask me 20 questions to get a good understanding of who I am and what my core beliefs are," and then you summarize that into a
Mm.
sheet. And, I even have taken speeches I've written, podcasts that I speak on, et cetera, and content I've created and feed it in. So now it knows who I am, some of my stories, what my core values are, and how I speak. Now using that as the anchor, I can start having it reach out to posts that resonate with who I
Hmm.
am and drop a comment, a sincere Tracy inspired comment on their post, right? And then if they, like it or whatever, if they reply back, that's when I step in and say, okay, I have their attention. Now let me step in as the human and
Hmm.
start to
Right.
interact with him. It's like automated robocalls, right? The
Hmm.
robocall dials the phone number
Right.
until the person picks up. And once they get that level of interest, well, then a human grabs the phone and says, "Hey, Sanjun, I hope I said that right. Hey,
Right.
how you doing today, man? We haven't. I saw you made a comment, and then the human dialogue starts. So there's the ability to connect us, but if we use it to continue the connection, then it's not really human connection. Then it's, AI and connection.
Hmm. Hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense. So, yeah, I did expect, a mix of both AI and, a touch of human as well. And I find it pretty interesting the way you're using AI in your workflow. I think a lot of people would be taking notes on that, especially because it resonated with me. I'm also like an AI product manager, and I do have my own certain workflows that I have around me that does help me figure out the workflow for contacting people when I should. And I think that's also a takeaway from this conversation. It's about what matters intelligently, right? And that shift you're talking about, moving from force to flow, from proving to building, that's not just a business evolution, that's a personal one.
Right.
So it brings me to probably the last question,
Sure.
which is something even bigger than strategy or systems, which is legacy. You have lived through loss, Tracy, fatherhood, rebuilding and reinvention. So I want you to ask this as a business owner, um, not as a business owner, sorry, but as a man. What
Sure.
does legacy mean to you now?
Legacy means to me, and I'll answer this from two perspectives. Um,
Mm.
First and foremost, it means to me that after I'm gone and, everything about me has been shuttered, that my daughters tell some of my stories either to their friends, to their family, and certainly, of course, to my granddaughter. Secondly, legacy to me means that I positively impacted someone to the point where I might be in their story, not by name. It may be that they
Right.
just said, I heard this guy on a podcast once, or I read his blog. I can't remember his name, but here's what I learned from him. And because I took action on what I learned from him, it positively impacted me. I don't even need
Right.
them to remember my name. Just the fact that I was able to reach out across the universe in some way and make an impact on someone to the positive, that for me would be an amazing legacy.
That's really powerful, I would say, Tracy. That's incredible. Yeah, and I could relate to it. I'm also a musician, by the way, so I have a day job, and uh, I do music, I do gigs thereafter, and that's also, I think, something I look out for. Helping people connect with a shared sentiment, right? I,
Mhm.
I really
Yeah.
related with that. And thank you, Tracy, for bringing such honesty, strength, and lived experience to this conversation. My biggest takeaway, though, from you tonight is that redemption, right? It isn't about a restart; it's more focused on rebuild. And every man has more work to do than what he thinks. So definitely. And before we wrap
If I
this
if I
off,
could add to that real quick, I
yeah, sure,
so many people say restart and rebuild, which are all great words, but sometimes people fear that. I'm an old car guy, right? I'm a muscle car guy from the 60s and 70s. Love those cars. We didn't restart those cars, and I never um, rebuilt the car. But what I did do is enhance what was already there. So parts of it may have been rusted. I sanded it off. Same thing about your life. There's parts of your life that is just rusted and gangreney and you just don't need no more. Sand it off and then repaint it. It's still the same car. You're still you. Your bones are still there. The structure is still there, right? So that's just another way to look at it without it feeling like so daunting of, oh God, I got to rebuild my life. No, no, you don't necessarily have to rebuild it. You can just, sand off the nastiness and paint right over it.
Right, right. That's a beautiful analogy. I resonate with that. I think a lot of people listening to this right now would. So yeah, I mean, before we just wrap this up, I just want to ask you on behalf of everyone who's listening to this right now, what's the best way to reach out to you, Tracy?
The best way to connect with me is, well, there's two ways. One is you could reach out to either one of the websites that go behind the podcast you mentioned earlier, yoursuccessdna.com if you're all about personal development, or thedarkhorseentrepreneur.com if you're all about maybe starting your side hustle with AI.
Wonderful. Dear listeners, I'll have the details in the show notes for you so you can check them out anytime at your own convenience. And with that, Tracy's story is a living masterclass in resilience, redemption, and reinvention. He has shown us that true masculinity isn't about avoiding pain, it's about transforming it. And that success doesn't necessarily come from pretending to have it all together, but building systems, emotional and professional, that help you rise again and again. To everyone listening, your life already contains the raw materials for your comeback, just like Tracy mentioned. The connections you have lost, the dreams you have buried, and the lessons you have ignored. They are all your gold mine. You just need the courage to dig again. This is Mind Over Masculinity, and I'm Sayan. Until next time, remember, your story doesn't end at your darkest chapter. It begins where you decide to write the next one. Thank you.